thank you very much. It's great to be back again in Spain, in this beautiful country, Madrid, where I actually started my film career with Conan the Barbarian, right here in Spain. So it's great to be back and talking about movies. My beard. I mean, this is not my first choice, trust me. But for my movie that I'm doing right now, called Maggie, I had to grow this beard. And I just want to say that I'm very proud of how far fitness and bodybuilding has come. Because when I started more than 45 years ago, I promised myself that I would not only lift for myself, but I would lift the entire sport. So I'm very happy to see the Arnold's Classic and the Mr. Olympia competition having such extraordinary athletes. And I'm so happy also that we have so many fans here, and there are so many people that are working to make bodybuilding such a great sport. I want to say thank you so much to Rafael Santoya for doing such an extraordinary job on promoting bodybuilding internationally, and doing such a great job with this competition, with the Arnold's Classic, which is the first Arnold's Classic that was organized outside of the United States. It was 2 years ago right here in Madrid. And this is now our third time for the Arnold's Classic. So let's give a big hand to Rafael for his extraordinary job that he's doing. I also want to say thank you so much to my partners, Jim Lorimer and Bob Lorimer, who are sitting right out here in front, who have been my partners for 40 years. And they've been extraordinary in organizing bodybuilding, also worldwide, in the Arnold's Classic in Columbus, Ohio. I also want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the athletes.
Muchas gracias a todos los atletas.
The women and the men who have brought such extraordinary talent and muscles and flexibility, posing and entertainment. So a big hand to them. I want to ask each and every one of you, don't just train for yourself. Don't just sell food supplements to get rich. Don't just sell equipment to gain more wealth. Think about promoting the sport of bodybuilding. Think about that 24 hours a day. We together have to be on a continuous crusade to promote health and fitness and bodybuilding from here to eternity. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is Dave Palumbo with RxMuscle.com. I'm standing here with Chris, the technician Aceto, and we are here in Madrid, Spain for the Arnold Europe 2013, where Phil Heath has just defended his Olympia title and won his first Arnold Classic ever, Chris. But better than the Olympia, in essence, was Arnold Schwarzenegger's presence here. I think he just adds a level of excitement to any show he comes to. We were sitting like right behind him. I mean, you couldn't get better seats than the press seats that we had. I got to thank our good friend Bob Lorimer for setting us up with these great seats. Arnold was right. I mean, literally, you could touch the back of his head. I didn't, of course, and I told Johnny to keep the camera a little farther away from him, just in case he got a little uncomfortable. Arnold had a beard. He said he was getting ready for a new movie, and it was a different Arnold.
Yeah, he said he filmed, what was it, Conan the Barbarian here, and that he's back filming a new movie. I didn't catch the title because of the audience was, when he was speaking, were drowning him out, screaming, "Arnold, Arnold!"
Yeah. It's always exciting to see Arnold in a show, and it does. Like I said, it raises everything up a notch. And Phil Heath was like almost, he said one of the reasons he actually did this show was because he wanted to win an Arnold Classic to have Arnold hand him the trophy.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's been bodybuilding in the last 30 years, I mean, the icon obviously is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and for us to be able to sit right next to him and have him here, and it's not a giant venue, it's a big venue, but to have him so intimately involved, know the athletes by name, it's a dream come true for even people like Phil Heath. For Phil Heath, he's the winner of the Arnold Classic, and Arnold's here to slap him on the back and say good job.
He wins his third Mr. Olympia 2 weeks ago, comes back here tonight against an arguably much better Kai Greene,
Yep.
and he defends his title from 2 weeks ago. He wins here. It was risky putting it on the line, you have to admit.
A lot of balls. He did a great job. He did risk it, and not only did he risk it, but they judged it. They
worked these guys.
They worked these guys, the top 5, especially the top 3, to death. Put them on one guy on one side, one guy on another. Just more than what I would expect.
Why did Phil Heath win tonight? Because let's break it down, because it was a lot closer than it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Phil Heath has, in prejudging, he won because it was hard to poke a hole, and I stole that from you, poke a hole in his physique. There were certain times during prejudging where I thought, okay, he's not going to win this shot, but he edges Kai out in this shot.
For a guy who's a little narrow, he's so wide when he hits shots.
A lot of things happen. This is not the best Phil Heath, but what you can say about Phil Heath is he's shown to be more consistent than any pro in the last 3 years.
I said he might be the most consistent Mr. Olympia of all time, because think about all the years Haney won and all the years that Ronnie won and Dorian. They were off years they had.
Yeah.
Phil has not had an off year.
If he was off here, you could easily make the argument that he was not deserving, strong enough to win.
Well, how do you take away a Mr. Olympia title from the Mr. Olympia when he's at his best?
Well, and that's why we're talking about him winning the show. I had it in prejudge, and I'm rooting for the underdog. Frankly, I'm rooting for Kai Greene. Just want to see the upset. I was rooting for, the Dennis Wolf rematch, and as much as I was rooting for those guys, here's Phil Heath in all the shots, and I come away after prejudge and thinking, okay, I can't find a mistake that he presented where I can make the argument that Phil does not win the show.
Well, if you look at Phil's physique, and you say to yourself, let me look for something that's off, or something that's unbalanced, or something that's not big enough, you come back with, there is nothing.
It's complete.
I mean, there is nothing missing, okay? Now, if you got a better bodybuilder who's going to show up on stage with the same no faults, then I guess he's vulnerable to lose, but we haven't seen that. Kai Greene tonight came in arguably a lot better than he did 2 weeks ago. And tonight, you might even say he had a chance at maybe winning the show, just because of the freak factor that he brings to the table. My problem with Kai Greene is that he was drier, he was harder, arguably from behind better.
Yeah.
However, I thought he was having trouble controlling his midsection, and that throws his symmetry off. And I think it makes the judges kind of turn away, because it is glaring.
I think you nailed it. I had great seats in prejudging. Not arguably, I had Kai winning the back double bicep, which is impressive. I had him winning the back lat spread. He was definitely, even though it was only a few hours difference between prejudging and finals, even tighter tonight. That said, he was not crushing Phil from behind. And when you take everything into consideration, the balance, the shape, the condition, I still had Phil winning. And yes, I thought that the midsection on the ab shot hurt Kai a lot in prejudging. It's almost like he couldn't sink down to
he looked like he had,
I
don't know if he had an upset stomach, or he looked a little distended, more so than we've seen him. Sometimes, people think when you dehydrate yourself that the stomach will actually flatten out. Sometimes that acts as an irritant, and it actually can cause inflammation down there. So, it might have backfired on him coming down that low. But once again, he was considerably more conditioned than 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, he was. And like I said, I think where he made himself very vulnerable is two places. His presentation in prejudging, it wasn't weak, but it just, he didn't seem like, he seemed like he was having trouble hitting the front lat spread, the front double, the ab shot, even the side shots, he didn't hit them really aggressive. And I just think Phil's polish is there's something to be said for Phil's consistency and his polish that puts him ahead.
Let me say something about Kai Greene, because you said that he was not hitting the mandatories that well in prejudging, which I agree. But you know what? At the night show, this guy, for a huge monster, moves so effortlessly, so gracefully on stage when he does these flips.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to think, well, maybe he just doesn't know how to hit the mandatories, because, I mean, he is incredible in his routine, and it is like almost like a dance you're watching. Although I will say that Fred Smalls probably had the most entertaining routine of the night. I mean, this guy could funk and move. I don't mean to leave Kai Greene, but I mean, how good is Fred Smalls when he gets into that pop and lock and move and dance, and he jumps higher than the fitness competitors.
Well, it was accentuated with the best conditioning that he's ever brought. I think, this was his best bodybuilding package. So, we've seen that cool routine in the past, but with this
that
best
was better than I've ever seen.
Well, maybe it was his condition. I mean, he was great. He was a great poser, great bodybuilder tonight.
I mean, he ran into obviously an Olympia lineup. Yes,
very legit, deep lineup.
Let's talk about Dennis Wolf, because Wolf arguably was the guy that everyone was saying, here, he can come into this show and upset everyone. And I'm almost thinking back, Gunther Schlinkkamp, another German guy who did that to Ronnie Coleman back in 2002. Wolf comes in here absolutely peeled and shredded, but you and I both said that at the Olympia, that wasn't his problem. We knew he was in condition. It's fullness with Wolf's physique, because otherwise, when he doesn't come in full, his back disappears. Now, explain why that happens.
Well, my assessment of him is that he was flat in prejudging, and he was even flatter tonight. He was extremely flat. I think what happens is people chase condition, but you can only chase it so far for your physique. And when he tries to chase condition, where people say, Dennis, if you brought in the hams and the glutes like Kai, then you'd move up or you might win. But what happens with his physique is, and this is not opinion, this is just the way it is. Well, obviously, when he tries to peel it down, he loses his back fullness, and fullness sometimes equals hardness when there's a lot of things just popping and jumping. This is definitely not the Dennis Wolf we saw in prejudging at the Mr. Olympia. I think he was lucky to nail a third spot. He was quote that flat.
Right, but I think you're right to a certain degree, but in another degree, he's bigger than everyone else on stage also, so you can make the argument, yeah, he's flat, but he's still bigger than everyone. I mean, he does, if he ever puts the whole combination together, can he unseat?
Yes.
I mean, despite the fact that he doesn't have a left calf, like Lonnie Tieper pointed out, can he defeat like a Phil Heath or Kai Greene?
Is someone once told me is that it's going to take a big guy to beat Phil Heath.
Is he that big guy?
A big guy means tall and with a big frame to fill it out. I thought he was at the Olympia. I mean, I didn't have him beaten Phil at the Olympia, but he really looked spectacular at the Olympia. And then when he came out in prejudging here, my first impression was he may slip out of the top three for sure.
He was certainly flat. Let's talk about Shawn Rhoden, who finishes in fourth. It's the same top four from the Olympia, really, but for different reasons this time. I mean, it sounds like, wow, the same old, same. No, it wasn't the same old, same old. It was closer. There was more comparisons. I thought Rhoden was better here tonight. I thought he was fuller. I thought he was harder. He looked more polished. He looked more sure of himself here. I think that once again he runs into this problem that you and I discussed at the Olympia. His back is just not big enough. It's not hard enough. I mean, it's not thick enough, and it's not wide enough. Here's a guy who probably just needs to deadlift and do bent over rows all day long.
Yeah, no, I the only knock that I can knock him on is what you just did is his, he needs to have a back double where he can hang with the guys who are first and second. Simple as that.
You want to call him Flex Wheeler, but Flex Wheeler had a crazy back.
Yeah, he had a crazy back. But every other shot, he's truly spectacular, and his condition was outrageous, and he was very full. I would have liked to see him, only because I'm working with him, move ahead of Dennis, but.
Does he do the Arnold, or does he wait till next year, so late shows?
He'll probably, he likes to compete. I bet he throws his hat right in the Arnold.
I mean, think about it. He's got to almost start dieting in a month. I mean, how much progress can he possibly make on that back in such a short period of time? Would you advise him possibly to?
I don't know. Victor Martinez sure made a big change in 2 weeks, so maybe he's, what I mean? It's hard.
Victor had the back. I think Victor, if we're going to go to Victor, let Victor fifth place. I mean, that was probably the most improved bodybuilder of the show, going from Olympia to here. I mean, he moves up quite a bit, and but he brings a level of conditioning that we didn't see at the Olympia, and he seems to be improving in size.
Yeah. I think Victor's problem, and it's not Victor's problem, is he has not gained back the muscle that the injuries caused him
jail.
to lose, and the jail time, because there's nothing I don't think he could have done tonight to become here as a better bodybuilder.
No, he
couldn't
maxed
have
himself
carved
out.
up more. He couldn't have cut water more, add water. None of those things. He just needs more time training, because you can see that everything had to pop. It was there. The judges worked these guys to death. So when they moved him up, they did move him up,
Right.
and they started comparing him. You could see that all the stuff is there. It's just that he doesn't have the time.
Can Victor
Yes.
return?
Yeah.
He can return to his
He
old
was
form?
I don't know his old form, but look, New York, he was just small.
Put it this way, can he beat a Dennis Wolf at this stage
Yeah.
of his
Oh,
career?
yeah, absolutely,
All
yes.
right, that's a very
Absolutely,
bold
yes.
statement. It's
Yeah.
a bold statement. Ruley Winkler, another favorite of mine. I mean, we talked to him at the expo the other day. He got rid of Grandma Sybil Peters, who was his trainer.
Accountant.
his accountant, manager and trainer, and he did the prep by himself. He told us the last 2 weeks between the Olympia and here, and he finally nailed what you and I have been saying he needs to do: come in crazy ripped like we know he can, and full like in the off season.
The pictures.
I mean, the guy is bigger than Phil Heath. When he was standing in the lineup at the prejudging, we were impressed. We're like, this guy is bigger than Phil Heath.
Yeah, this is again, that sounds like an exaggeration. When he did the quarter turns next to Phil, you realize how big Raleigh is, but at the same time, you realize how complete and balanced Phil is,
right.
because he's a mass monster. He's in his best shape ever. He's overpowering to some degree, in the lineup next. I wouldn't say next to Phil, but
Certain body parts.
yes, and your eye still comes back to Phil
It
at the
goes
end.
back to how the body parts
Yeah.
flow, and I
And the
think
condition with him. It was impeccable condition versus very, very good condition with Raleigh. Raleigh's made unbelievable strides since last year. We were here last year, and he was just wasted out of the top. He was just flat as could be.
here's a guy who in 2014 is going to win a lot of shows.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that
I agree with you.
he is
He's
very
very
dangerous. And he was hurting up on stage
He
in
was
prejudging.
Listen, the judges worked these guys so hard.
3 rounds in a row.
honestly, because we were probably 2 rows behind. I wanted to stop the prejudging because it looked like he was going to pass out at one
Yeah,
point.
I thought he was going to go down.
And that's not because they put him through the quarter turns once. That's because they kept on mixing Raleigh around and Victor
Victor and Rowley and Rhoden were out there for 3 rounds
Yes.
without a break.
without a break, and they were giving it their all. And I saw Rowley's eyes, like crisscross a couple times, and I thought, maybe we should stop the prejudging here.
It was a very exciting prejudging.
It was great.
I mean, really. Let's talk about the fitness division. Tanji Johnson, who won the Arnold Open in I guess Columbus, Ohio, earlier this year, comes back here. And arguably way better conditioning than we've seen her before. I mean, you even said it. Her waist
Package
is
is
teeny
amazing.
tiny.
She's like a
when she's in
rodent.
shape, she's really physique-wise unbeatable.
I agree. I mean,
Better than Adela, I think.
her physique is special. I mean, everything ties in right. She's got the small waist. She's got the right amount of muscle. She's not lean, but you wouldn't say
She's lean enough.
She's lean enough to highlight the structure and the frame and the delts and everything that she has. She was the clear winner in the physique round for me.
And with Adela out of the lineup, really her only competition, as we knew going into this, was going to be the second place finisher at the Olympia, Oksana Grishina. Now, with the routine level of expertise that she's got, and I mean, if you watch Oksana's routine, it's absolutely mind-boggling. She was the Joker. She has a costume. She has makeup. She has dramatic flair. She does a one-handed press
It's Cirque du
off the
Soleil
ground.
with strength.
Well,
With just
The
not-
one-handed press, and I'm going to go on record as saying this might be the most impressive fitness move I've seen of all time. The strength, and she has her legs extended in the air. And, I don't know how this routine doesn't get first every single time. But I don't think it got first tonight, because if it did, I think she would have won the show, since that's 2/3 of her score. So, Oksana has to settle for second here. Talk to me about what she needs to do to improve that physique, because she doesn't have the best physique on stage. She probably was 3rd in the physique round.
I was thinking, the answer is I don't know, because I was watching very closely in prejudge, and she's extremely lean. There's something boxy through the rib cage. Is
it because of all the strength, core strength she has?
The rib cage is a little odd-ish for this when you put her next to Tanji Johnson and some of the other girls.
Right.
And at the same time, I think she's trying to improve it so much. Her glutes are torn up. I'm not, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but
She's got ripped abs, rich glutes.
it's almost like she's got to be soft, a little bit softer in the glutes, but something, and a little bit not so lean in the midsection.
Let's assume she's 3rd place here. I mean, I can't see that she doesn't win the fitness round unless I don't know the proper way they're judging it, because I think that, you know,
maybe you're overly impressed with that one move that's just mind-boggling.
I think that just the way she flows, the energy level, the way she emotes to the crowd and connects with the crowd, the level of difficulty of her moves are impressive, and I just think that she got it all, you know. But that's why I don't judge it. You know, Tangi obviously has a phenomenal routine. She's always very creative as well. I just thought that the level of Oksana's was a little higher than hers. So, you know, like I said, you could flip a coin. I think either one of those girls could have won here tonight. Both are fantastic. To get that level of expertise at the Arnold Europe, I know that Schwarzenegger and Lorma have got to be thrilled.
Well, Oksana won here last year too, right?
She beat Adela, yeah.
Adela, so, you know, that shows you the level of competition. You know, this is, have you been to an Arnold in recent years that had in just terms of bodybuilding this depth? Mm-hmm. Have you?
No.
I mean, that's how, you know, the depth of the
crowd was going nuts, and it was deep.
Sold out.
It was deep. You know, this is a very big theater. I'm looking at it. It's enormous, and this place had to have like maybe 4,000 people in here at least.
You know, they were going crazy. They went nuts for the bodybuilders when they came into the audience. They obviously appreciate bodybuilding here, and it's exciting because, you know, we'll be back here next year for the fourth rendition of it, and you know, hopefully all the same guys who are, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the Olympia can show up again here next year.
And Regina De Silva places third. Another very powerful routine. I love her physique. You know, she's a bigger girl.
She is.
So sometimes it's hard to compare it to some of the more petite, you know, girls like Oksana and Tangi. But once again, the crowd here they love to see performances. Fred Biggie Smalls, Oksana Grishina, Regina De Silva,
Kai Greene.
I mean, I mean, the performance is a huge thing.
When Kai Greene actually came out to do his routine, the entire audience stood up to make sure that they could, you know, because the seats were flat on the ground. They wanted to, I think the people in the front.
They were yelling his name. They were chanting. They were like, Kai, Kai, Kai.
Let's make some noise. Aplausos para Kai Greene.
And he thrives off that energy. You know, I think, you know.
You ever notice his routine kind of is very I don't know if he wings it, but it seems like his routine kind of is dependent upon the level of the audience.
Well, that's why it was good tonight, because the audience was going crazy. They loved him.
For the judge, it was also very, very difficult. Two real champions, two amazing athletes, but just one winner. In second place, the runner-up with a check worth $25,000 goes to Kai Greene. Kai Greene se lleva la segunda posición, los 20. Pablo Gómez, representing Fitness Century. Ahí lo tienen, Phil Heath, junto a don Pablo Gómez y don Pedro Fernández. Well,
you know, at the very end, Arnold gets Phil up on stage, and they're talking to each other. He's interviewing him, and then he goes, "I have a question for you, Phil. Will you be back? I want to hear you say, 'I'll be back.'" And, you know, that's obviously a line from Arnold's movie, but I think at the same time, Arnold was putting him on the spot, like he wants to see him do the show again.
Phil, I got to ask you a quick question. Tell me now, first of all, the people like to hear the athletes talk. Otherwise, they think they're machines. We don't want to think that. So just tell me quickly, what do you think was it that made you the winner in both of those competitions now, one after the next? Is it the training? Is it the diet? Is it your mental attitude? What is it?
I definitely think it was the mental attitude. Obviously winning the Olympia, as you would know, it was an incredible feat. But then to go 2 weeks later and stay diligent on the diet, just really making sure that we have a hard and sharp focus the entire time, and having a do or die attitude in the gym, knowing that each day is an opportunity to get better or get worse. And I chose to get better. And to be honest with you, my wife knows this for a fact, that's watching, you know, in Colorado, that I did this show not only for you fans, I came out for you guys, but I also did it to meet you on stage. You know, I've done this show, you know, 3 other times, and I've gotten second, I got fifth, and I got second, and now I can say that I'm an Arnold Classic champion, and to be able to shake your hand and to be presented the trophy is definitely on my bucket list, so thank you very much. Thank you, Raphael, for having me.
Say, I'll be back.
Do they want me back? then I'll be back.
What dramatic.
I'll be back.
Will Phil do it?
You know,
He said he'll be back.
I wouldn't be surprised. One thing, one of many things that's admirable about Phil Heath is he's not afraid to travel overseas and risk it all.
Yeah.
And he's shown every single time, whether it's India, Spain, you know, that he'll travel to the show and show up, and you'll get
The best Phil Heath.
You'll get either the best. He's been able to produce the best Phil Heath, or very close to the best Phil Heath, which is extremely hard to do because, you know, as much as people love him being Mr. Olympia, everyone's rooting for the underdog all the time.
Well, you know, Ronnie was the biggest freak of all time. Haney, you know, maybe the best back of all time. Dorian, you know, just the grainy, crazy conditioning with his size. Phil, I told you, the most consistent Mr. Olympia we've ever had. And once again,
Popeye-ish with condition. That's
but
what
that counts for something, because it's hard to.
no.
When they say you have to beat the Mr. Olympia, you really do. And when a Mr. Olympia never comes in out of shape, how do you beat the guy? I mean, there's no one crawling out of the woodwork that's just going to knock this guy off his block so quickly. And he's only 33 years of age.
Yeah, no, that's what I enjoyed about prejudging, is that he risked it all, rolled the dice, even though we're not in Vegas. He laid it on the line, and you know, you and I were sitting there. You know, I was like wanting to see, like, oh, he's off, or this is where Kai's going to get by, or someone's
Never seen it. We'll never see it.
And you know, I think he didn't slam the door shut, but he shut a chapter of his career by showing that, again, he can show up overseas after Mr. Olympia, hold his peak for 2 weeks, and come in and get the job done.
And you were right. It was a very close show. The scorecards may reflect a Phil Heath unanimous win here, but you know what? I guarantee it. The judges had to really think very hard about giving him first place. He just was just enough on every judge's scorecard to win, and that's really what it amounted to. I also want to mention the strongman competition that they held here. Brian Shaw, all 440 pounds, 6'9" of him, after winning the world's strongest man a few months ago, and then doing America's Strongest Man at the Olympia, comes here and wins the Arnold Strongman. That's 3 wins in about a month's time. This guy is I think the most dominating guy in all of strongman, and I think it's going to be a long time before we see this guy beat. He was putting that 290-pound dumbbell over his head like it was. Chris and I were talking. We're like, the two of us together couldn't push it. Probably
we couldn't figure out how to hire someone to push it for us. I mean, he's just he's freaky. When Arnold brought him up at the end, it looked like WWF wrestling in the olden days when Andre the Giant would stand next to
Arnold
someone.
looked like a midget compared to him.
It looked like nothing.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a great show. I want to thank Rafael Santonio, the IFBB president, for doing a great job here today. You know, he's always very welcoming for us. Bob Lormer, of course, you know, open arms, gave us great seats and great press credentials. And, you know, he's always very cordial to me, and anything we ever need, he's always available for. I still haven't got the Arnold interview yet, but I'm banking on it. With 5 Arnold Classics coming up next year, I'm bound to get one. For now, though, we are very hungry. We are here in Madrid, Spain. I'm Dave Palumbo with Chris, the technician, Aceto, and I want to thank Johnny Styles for the great video job he's done all weekend long for RxMuscle.com.
Me dicen el matador de los 100 barrios porteños, no tengo por qué tener